Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hardcore Wrestling Radio. I'm the Shining Star, Rick Starr. And tonight we have the privilege of talking with indie wrestling promoter Joseph Knight of Classic Wrestling Association. The CWA is based in Patterson, New Jersey, and is trying to bring back classic style wrestling of the 80s and 90s. But before we get to introduce Joe, I got a few guys I'd like to bring in. First, he's all attitude and no filter. You heard him earlier. He is the son of a bitch, Andy. Andy, welcome to Hardcore Wrestling Radio.
Hello, everybody, and greetings from the UK.
And then over from the Big Easy, we have James. James, welcome to the show.
Good to be here, but I'm gonna kind of be like in and out, but I'm here.
And then over from the West Coast, he's the Bay Area MVP, known as Will. Will, welcome to HWR.
Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure, and hashtag the beast.
The Beast. And then, of course, over from Lance Moss TV, he's the incomparable Lance Moss. Lance, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And, of course, the man of the hour, he is a guest of our show. We would like to introduce Joseph Knight. Joe, welcome to the show. We are honored to have you here.
It's an honor to be on, and I can't wait to hear the questions, and can't wait to be part of this show.
Well, the main reason we were talking, we've been, we know that TNA's been having a lot of issues, and I figured, who else to bring on, but someone, of course, who's running his own company. But before we really get to that, I really figured, why don't we talk about a little bit about CWA and get to know, let the fans know and the listeners know what is it, about your company. We know that, you've talked to me a little bit and saying how you've been trying to bring back the 80, the old school wrestling. So I'm going to kick it over to you and, have the fans, it's a little bit of a small history.
Well, quickly, basically, in my experience, I have been a wrestling manager first during the early 90s. I had some time, you could say train/roadie, gopher boy for Eddie Gilbert. Did that for about a couple of months. He showed me the ins and outs. I met Dennis Caluso, like way in the past when everybody was starting out. I mean, guys like Chris Candido, Sabu. Did managing. I managed a good friend of mine, and he's actually the champion of our promotion, Jason Knight, the ECW original. Managed a couple of tag teams. I'm going to throw them out there so they, get their little props out there. One team, it was the Nightmare Express and NC-17. Did that for a little bit, then went on to hosting or promoting my own promotion. That was from 95. And I took some time out from 2000 to earlier this year. I was kind of drafted back into wrestling by some of the talent. And the philosophy we're doing is what is missing in wrestling today. I hate to say it, but I'm not a big fan of what's the product that's out there. I'm not a big into the hardcore, explosive lights and all that stuff type of person. I'm a traditionalist. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I was a Hulkamaniac. I was a fan of the Horsemen, the Rock and Rolls, and so forth. And I see that wrestling today is missing that, the larger than life characters, the stuff that made you believe in wrestling, the stuff that made you want to come back. Today they just don't have this. So what we're doing in the CWA is we actually are going backwards to go forward. Meaning we're taking stuff from the 80s that made it fun, made it great to watch. We put it all together and make this family-friendly product and present it out to the fans. And so far, we've had a great success with it. A lot of fans have literally backed up the company for that. So right back to you.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about a little bit about TNA, and let's kind of backtrack from where TNA first started a little bit. Hulk Hogan got signed several years back, and we think that's where it kind of had the issues.
Hold Hold on. Let me get my life preserver on. Let me tighten this up here. Okay.
The company, was doing pretty good. I mean, we all knew it. Before Dixie Carter came out, Jeff Jarrett. We thought Jeff Jarrett owned the company. Of course, that was just I think he was more of the figurehead. Then Dixie Carter came out and said, no, I really own the company, and that's where things started to turn a little bit. And then I think it was maybe 6 months to maybe a year. Hulk Hogan comes on, and then he says, nope, get this 6-sided junk ring out. And then he says, I'm going to turn this company around. We're going to make this company much bigger and better. He's going to bring fame to the company. And that's what everybody thought. And so far, 3 years later, not much has happened. What would you say your explanation with that? What would you think?
Well, basically, what TNA was trying to do is trying to catch up to the WWE, obviously. They were trying to shock the audience. They were trying to do something that WCW did when they brought in Hulk Hogan. What a lot of these companies fail to do is when they, especially TNA, they brought in Hulk Hogan and they did not know what to do with him. They wanted to give him a general manager role where he was out there. Then he was going to be a wrestler. Then he went back to being a general manager. I personally, Hulk Hogan, and I have nothing against Terry Hogan, whichever you want to call him. I was a Hulkamaniac growing up, but I think he's just collecting, and he's not putting anything for the company. All that time, you've seen Hogan in commercials. You've seen Hogan doing public appearances. He is very, very few times have you seen Hulk Hogan even talk about TNA. He's been on Regis and not Kathy Lee, the other, I forgot the other girl's name.
Kelly.
But thank you. Yeah, it's the old timers coming back. It's you've seen him do public appearances where he does nothing for TNA. I see that's a bad investment. If you're going to do something with Hulk Hogan and you're paying him a substantial amount, put him out there to do something. He should be walking with a TNA billboard. That's my opinion, and they're still, to this day, they're not doing it.
Yeah. Now, if you could, now, what else would you say that TNA's biggest issues? I mean, the Bishop, they've been getting rid of a lot of companies. They've been getting rid of a lot of talent, and they've gone on the road. Would you say that they went on the road too early, or do you think that it was they should have stayed in Florida? What do you think the big issue was?
Well, a lot, especially with indie companies, and especially with mine, spot shows are what make some money for the company. Plus, it gets your talent out to different locations so you can meet fans. In TNA's problem is, again, they went out, they decided to go on to do road trips and host in different arenas without building up their stars. Say what you will about AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, so many of those other talented guys in it, because TNA does have some good talent in there. They, for some odd reason, they never pushed them to superstar status. You can make the argument, look at Vince. Vince took a person like Daniel Bryan, who was, again, a very good talent in the indie circuit, went to Ring of Honor, then came to TNA, and look how big they made Daniel Bryan. TNA could have done the same thing with any of its people, and they didn't do it. What they did was they took guys that came in from WWE, gave them the strap, and hoped that that was going to help the company. It didn't. When you take a company out to do, basically go around and do spot shows like TNA, you want to have the people know who they are. And, unfortunately, not a lot of people know who they are. So their public exposure is very thin. Nobody knows rarely who they are. If you go up to a bunch of people and say, tell me about pro wrestling. What do you know about pro wrestling? 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you WWE. And that is why the company doesn't move up in either ratings, doesn't achieve more greatness. It's because you can have Hulk Hogan, you can have Kurt Angle, you can have any name, but you got to build up the other stars. That's what WWE did when they had The Rock, Steve Austin, Triple H. They took these guys who were unknown and made them something. TNA is not doing that with any of their talent. So going out in different locations, you're basically just another indie promotion going out there hosting shows. They should stay where they're at, get more exposure on TV, and build up their talent to push them out there more. Have them go do public appearances. Have them go do stuff that the WWE guys do. You can see WWE does Make-A-Wish foundations. They do promos for Say No to Bullying. The other positive themes, no matter what, a WWE star is right there front and center. John Cena, Randy Orton, The Miz, CM Punk, all these guys are household names because Vince put them up there to be in the public exposure. You know who they are. TNA has to start doing that to build up its talent. Stop depending on Hogan. Stop depending on Eric Bischoff. Stop depending on name talent. That's not going to do anything for you. Build up your talent roster. Then put them out there.
Yeah, and I think TNA tried to do that just recently. They made a small attempt, but I think they failed at it. With this whole Bellator angle that they've been doing with Tito Ortiz and Rampage Jackson, it was the right angle. I mean, they brought in Rampage Jackson, which started. He put him in the main event Mafia, and I'm like, all right. It's getting a little bit of a push because we knew he was still fighting in that Bellator. They tried doing it with King Mo, and King Mo did shit. I mean, it was an utter failure. It was a flop, and they did it again. I'm like, why are they still pushing this angle? And then, they did the August 1st, this promo and the warning for a week, and I'm like, oh, okay, who's it going to be? Maybe it's a new guy coming, and it comes out to be Tito Ortiz. And almost everybody who's into MMA knows that these two are going to be fighting in November. And it was like just like a big air. It's like, really?
Well, let me cut you in on that, and then I would like to hear from the other staff regarding that.
Sure.
All basically TNA did was promote MMA, an MMA event. Are those guys going to promote TNA? I highly doubt it. Is Spike going to benefit of it? Absolutely. TNA gains nothing by bringing in these MMA fighters because you can't put an MMA fighter. Well, you can now with Brock Lesnar and certain other folks. But let's face it, wrestling fans want to see a wrestler. Wrestling fans want to see someone that is going to really stand up and save the company. Bringing in Tito Ortiz, Rampage, and whomever else doesn't promote your company. It promotes your MMA. Is it going to bring any MMA people to your product? Maybe a small percentage. Not a lot. Is the MMA company going to do the same for TNA? I doubt it. That's why, again, when I saw that and they came up with this little promo, and I'm like, oh, here's Dixie Carter again making these huge announcements. What's it going to be? I'm expecting Hornswoggle to appear, and they'll give him the strap. And when they came out with Tito Ortiz, again, great guy, good fighter, good for the time. But it has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling. It has absolutely nothing to do with their product. And I feel TNA dropped the ball one more time.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I totally have to agree with you, and it's a shame, but hopefully eventually they'll figure out what to do. Maybe they'll pick up the ball somewhere along the way. But you know what? Right now I'm going to kick it over to the son of a bitch, Andy. Andy, over to you.
I think I fully agree with everything Jason said because.
Hey, I'm Joseph. Just
Joseph.
Because me and Jason are the same nights. You know what? I'm going to clear that up. I've managed Jason in the past. True, we have the same last name, Knight. And true, he works for my company. And true, he is the world champion of my company. But there is no controversy, and we're not related. If we were related, he's the better looking older one, and I'm the smarter one. Let's just leave it like that. But yeah,
You're the richer one.
no, I'm the smarter one. Let's just
Yeah, I fully agree with what you were saying. It's TNA seem to think they're doing the right thing, but they're not. As our friends just said there, what's the point of bringing in people who are not wrestlers to promote your show when they're not actually promoting your show? They're promoting their own product. Most wrestling fans, the fans that they are appealing to, probably haven't even got a clue who these guys are anyway. It's only probably diehard fans that like watching UFC and wrestling together understand who they are. Most of the kids who are watching TNA or WWE now are looking at these old guys, really, for the want of a better term, coming in and thinking, wonder what he does then. They just haven't got a clue, and they're not playing at the right sort of market. I don't know what Dixie Carter's thinking. She's supposed to have come back from a production background, marketing and production, and she just does not have a clue what she's doing. She really doesn't. People say she hasn't got a clue what she's doing with wrestling. She hasn't got a clue what to do with the TV industry.
If I can cut in here for a minute. Dixie Carter has a country music background. She has done, music production, hence why Mickey James made a CD. Basically, that's her thing, and I want to be nice because I have nothing but admiration. When a woman can get into a business like what I'm doing and what Vince does, you got to commend her. But Dixie Carter, in the most common sense in the wrestling world, and I'm going to say this directly, she is what we consider a money mark. She is, Jeff Jarrett went to her, presented her the idea. She says, oh, cool, wrestling, I can make money, and gave her the money, and he ran with it. Dixie Carter, I can assure you, if Dixie Carter would have taken the time to sit down with the likes of Kevin Sullivan, Jim Cornette, Dusty Rhodes, look at DVDs of the rise and fall of WCW, ECW, the spectacular legacy of the AWA and World Class. Learn from those points. See how those companies had their high moments, the low moments, where they succeeded, where they failed. If she would spend an entire day talking to these individuals, watching these videos, watching wrestling, actually watching it, and not trying to compete against Vince, and getting the right people to work for her instead of people that just want to pull money out of her, then TNA will be in a different situation. They will be in a different light. It'll be completely different from what you see today. Unfortunately, and she can argue it, I will welcome an opportunity to talk to her, but she has no idea on the business of wrestling and sport. Call it sports entertainment, call it whatever you want. It's still grown men wearing outrageous costumes, different gimmicks, getting in the ring and pounding it out against each other in a professional, athletic way. So I think that what's the problem in TNA. Nobody in TNA has any common sense. I think they're just all there for just the money. I could be wrong, and I gladly, debate them over it. But their track record from the beginning till now, till, from the day Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff stepped into the way they got rid of the six-sided ring, and they brought back the traditional ring, and they got rid of so many other stuff. Let's face it, they went from a high point till they set sail on their version of a Titanic. They didn't miss the iceberg. They collided with it. they sunk it, and with this thing with Tito Ortiz and Rampage, it's like you're firing torpedoes at an already sinking ship. So, in my opinion, that's what Dixie Carter needs to do. Turn around, sit back, read, listen to everybody that's there to help, that are in professional wrestling, and change this whole direction of TNA. And I don't think she's smart enough to do that. And I don't think any of the staff is willing to put that in her ear, because they know if they do that, she might cut me out of my payroll.
Yeah. See, it's a shame because with the six-sided ring, they had a gimmick which was selling quite well. And I started to watch it purely for that reason. It was different. I hadn't seen it before, and it caught my attention. And I don't know whose idiotic idea it was to get rid of it, but the company went down the toilet from then on. They've just never been the same company since they've got rid of that ring. And a lot of people, and I've said it to the guys on here now, she's a big wrestling fan. She loves wrestling. She sleeps and breathes wrestling. Triple H was a phenomenal wrestler. Can he do Vince McMahon's job? Can he? Shit. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you can manage or promote yourself. Since Triple H's so-called being in the back and organising stuff, WWE's gone down the toilet. Just because he's a good in-ring performer doesn't make him any good in the back. And my honest opinion, heaven forbid, when Vince passes away and passes it down to Triple H, we'll see the end of WWE as we know it. Whether people like it or lump it, it'll go down the toilet the same way as TNA. I don't think he could organise a screw in a brothel, to be honest.
Well, you got to remember, the only reason Triple H is there because he's, kissing the right rear, and he's giving, Daddy Vince grandchildren.
Yeah.
So, again, you look at the situation, no matter, and I discussed this with Rick many times, the WWE is so dominant right now. You can get two mannequins to stand in the middle of the ring with people moving their arms on strings, basically two marionettes, and people will pay money to see them because they're the only big company out there. Their production is incredible. Their marketing is incredible. They, regardless of what you see behind the scenes, they know what they're doing. 9 times out of 10 doesn't work well in the ring, but they, without a threat at WWE, you're not going to see Vince bring out the creative juices that he used to have. During the 80s, he took a guy like Hulk Hogan, who was in the AWA, made him into a megastar, and boom, the rock and wrestling took off with Cyndi Lauper, Liberace, with so many names, so many star names. He changed the face of wrestling. Why? Because he was competing against the AWA, WCCW, the NWA, and other promotions. During the 90s, it floundered a bit, but what happened when WCW hit with the NWO angle and everything? Vince did the most smartest thing that every indie promoter and every other promoter, major promoter, should see, is he built his own stars. He kept a couple of names, he did have a couple of names in there to help boost them up, but he created his talent base. He made people like Cactus. He took Cactus Jack, turned him into Mick Foley, turned him into Mankind. Say what you will, he made this character. He was known already as Cactus Jack, but made him into a megastar as Mankind, Mick Foley, wherever. He took a guy like The Rock, who was Dwayne Johnson when he started, made him into The Rock. Stunning Steve Austin into Stone Cold Steve Austin. Vince McMahon, when he's completely challenged, his creative juices will go. And look what it is now. He's the only game in town because he squashed everybody else because he was smarter than they were. And there's an old saying, when you back a rabid creature like a dog in a corner, that dog's going to just lash out at you. Vince saw that with WCW. Vince saw that with every other company, created his stars, put them in high places, put them out in public, made them into superstars. So that's the major difference. What the product you see today in WWE, sure, it stinks, but that's the only game in town. No offense to Ring of Honor, no offense to TNA, but who are they compared to WWE? You go up to any fan in the street and you say professional wrestling, first thing they're going to say is John Cena, Randy Orton, Sheamus, whomever, WWE. They're not going to say AJ Styles. They're not going to say Samoa Joe. They're not going to say this. No, they're going to say those major guys.
Yeah, it's scary, really, because they always say don't put all your eggs in one basket. In my opinion, and I don't know what you guys think, but I think Dixie Carter needs to run her own company and not worry about what Vince is doing. Vince doesn't care what she's doing at all. So why should she worry about him? She needs to be her own brand, and at the moment she seems to be doing everything. And try and copy Vince, and you're not going to copy the best at what they do. You're always going to be second best. She needs to create her own niche and be different. Maybe she'll send her wrestlers down to the ring riding white horses. I don't know, but she needs her own gimmick.
Well, in order for TNA to turn around, you gotta have people. And I'm not, again, I'm not in the TNA office. I don't know their staff. I don't know them. Well, we probably know the mentality into it, but let's face it, there's no one in that company. And at least I can say it, and that's my own personal opinion. It's not an attack on them. I don't think there's anybody in the office that is going to sit down and really run the company. And, put Dixie Carter in the corner. Give her a book to read. Put her over there. Sit down. Sit down, do what you got to do, read a book, look at a magazine, paint your nails, and give someone give someone who knows the business, who knows how to make money. Put them in charge and clean up everything that you're doing. Don't fire the low-paying talent. Fire your guys who are spending your money and not doing anything for your company.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think TNA, the problem is when they keep on rehashing the superstars, it doesn't really give them the chance to really build with a lot of their wrestlers. We see a lot of guys come and go, and before you even get a chance to really like who they are, and they get new people in, and they think that that's the smart way to do it, and it's very foolish.
No, they think by getting marketed wrestlers from other brands like Ring of Honor, WWE, do you think that's the way to go? It's not, because I even said to you, Rick, a couple of months ago, Hulk Hogan was on British television being interviewed, and he was announced as ex-WWF superstar. He works for TNA. That guy should have corrected him and said, hold on a minute, I work for TNA. Don't mention WWF or WWE. But he knows that people know him from the WWF. He doesn't care that, no one knows him from TNA. If you speak to very infrequent wrestling fans that have probably been watching it in the 80s and given up on it, I dare bet if you said to them, where does Hulk Hogan wrestle? First thing they'd say is, why does he still wrestle? And then they'd probably say, WWE, I assume.
Or they'd say, what is it Hulk Hogan best known for? Working in the WWE. But another time that he had done it even sooner than that, when his daughter, who also, Brooke Hogan, who also works for TNA, they were both recognized as, she was recognized as a former musician, or a musician, Brooke Hogan, and former wrestler,
but
Hulk
again,
Hogan.
What is she on the payroll for? Because her dad's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, she's brought nothing to the table with TNA.
If she wants to come along with her father and promote her fallen singing career, she should be doing that like a lot of people do on the indie circuit, giving her time up for free. She shouldn't be paid. She shouldn't be paid a wage. She doesn't actually do anything on screen. People in the indie circuit would give their arms and legs to just walk down the ramp, even in TNA, and just say, hello guys, I'm the new valet for such and such a body, or I'm the new manager for AJ Styles. They do for free. Why is she getting like $125,000 paycheck a year? For what? Being a famous wrestler's daughter? Because that's all she is. She can't act. She couldn't sell a program. But then again, that's goes for a lot of the TNA roster, unfortunately. I mean, me and Rick have had many a conversation about Gail Kim, phenomenal wrestler. She couldn't sell a program. Yeah. The only person I know that's dying on the floor, and 3 seconds later she's getting up and kicking somebody's arse.
Yeah, she's... Well, you know what, real quick, I want to, bring a couple of the other guys, get a few other questions in. I'm going to kick it over to Will. Will, over to you.
Hey, hello again, Joseph. How's it going?
Pretty good, MVP. Let's go.
All right. Andy took one of my questions, so darn you, Andy.
That's Andy. He steals everybody's thunder.
One of my few questions is, what do you think about the WWE product right now? Do you see it going any further than it is right now, or low? What are your thoughts?
The current WWE product.
Talent.
Well, they do have some good talent out there. I'm not gonna. Really, the only thing I have to say with WWE is that since there's no competition, their stories are very, boring. It's their, the Daniel Bryan Cena thing going back and forth. I look at it and to me it's not appealing. It's not anything that attracts me. There's nothing surprising about it. You can predict pretty much what's going to happen by the pay-per-view comes out. And let's just say this, if and I'm not throwing any spoilers or anything like that, let's just say Daniel Bryan did win the title from Cena. By Survivor Series, Cena will be winning it back. It's a common thing. It's something that, it's so predictable. And I think right now, since there's no threat to Vince, they don't have to come up with anything big. They could just do whatever they're doing. Me personally, I just find it boring. There's nothing that attracts me to their product. Even the tag team situation is pretty dead. There is no, there's no. Again, and I hate to bring this up, and I know, like I said, a lot of listeners are probably going to scream on this, saying that I'm old school.
Joseph. They probably will.
It's all right. You know what? We love the haters.
Do I see? Wait a minute! I see out my window people with pitchforks and torches. I didn't know I was in Transylvania. Basically, I think what's going on is, it's always hit and miss ideas. In fact, Rick and I talked about this earlier. Look at the Fandango guy. He starts very good. He comes out, he does his little dance. He's complaining that nobody can pronounce his name. And after a while, they feud him against Chris Jericho, who was on Dancing with the Stars. And look where he is now. He's, he's just that dancing guy now. Okay. Let's move on to something now different. To me, it's, longevity, long-term decisions. WWE just doesn't keep something going. And then with the pace of WWE, every month's a pay-per-view. So you got to go click it. You got to go really fast. So it's like today, Fandango's a star. And 2 pay-per-views after that, he's the one in the back cleaning up the garbage. It's really, they don't invest on characters long term. Daniel Bryan, like I said, I'm surprised. He's been in there long. He's done everything that they've asked of him. He's a good talent in the ring. I kind of like the Billy Goat look. You know, it's, but again, it's kind of predictable when they wanted to make him come out in the suit. I kind of remember them doing that or trying to do that with Steve Austin, and Vince got a stunner for it. So it's just another rehash. So again, to me, the product, the talent is good. It's just with no competition, there's nothing really big to attract me to it.
Okay. Well, that you kind of answered the next question I wanted to tell you about Fandango, but you already took that from me, so I'll switch to another one. Yeah, you just talked about the tag team division, and I noticed a few tag teams have been underutilized. I mean, they haven't been used as of late. So my next question is, do you think the Usos would ever get a potential shot at the belt? Because I noticed they've been having push after push, and then they get brought down. They recently just lost a match against the Real Americans. So do you see the Usos getting any chance of getting a legit run for the belts?
The Usos are a phenomenal team. I saw the Money in the Bank pay-per-view with the Usos on it, and I have to say that, they should be given a run with the belts. Kind of move the belts away from ready-made teams or put together teams out of the blue and bring back classic tag teams. And I think the Usos should get it, but again, I don't see it in the plans. They're going to be like the Islanders. They're going to get in there. They're going to be so close that they can just taste the titles, and then they're going to lose. They're going to be so close, and then they're going to lose. It's until something more like another tag team comes in or another established team comes in that makes a presence, then you're going to see more the Usos being utilized. But as of right now, again, phenomenal team, but I don't think they're going to give them the straps anytime soon.
Okay. And final question, and me and Lance, we've been talking about this a whole lot throughout the weeks, but how do you feel, and I know I've been waiting to ask you this, do you think TNA will be gone within the next year or so? Because I stopped watching Impact for the last couple weeks, and I only caught a little tidbits and pieces with the August 1st warning. Tito Ortiz, who cares? But where do you see TNA going within the next year? Are they still going to be on TV, or is it going to be straight to another DVD like
the Rise and Fall and the Rise and Fall? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm actually cleaning my shelf, so it should fit right between the Rise and Fall of ECW and WCW. But I dusted that little spot. It has a Hulk Hogan figure occupying that spot. Let's hope that it doesn't close down, because if it does, that's another company that has, even if it's not as big as the WWE, it's a company that has television exposure. Professional wrestling today needs variety. Wrestlers all around the United States and all over the world need another place to go to. You're not going to see many guys in the indie circuit be drafted to WWE. So if they can go to TNA, that's good for them. If it's going to close in a year or so, possibly, I'm hoping that somebody in their staff, somebody will walk in and take over and slap Dixie Carter and say, sit down and look at Hulk Hogan and tell him basically, you're being paid these amount of dollars. You're going to be my walking billboard. You're going to be just like you were the Hulkamania thing in the WWF, that during the 80s you spewed, you ate your Hulk Hogan vitamins, you ate the WWF ice cream bars. You did everything to promote WWF. You're going to promote everything of TNA, and I don't think that anybody in TNA is willing to do that. You don't. You gotta take. You're the only person really. You got Sting. Sting, another guy, great guy, great. A lot of enthusiasm. I will be putting him so much out in public, promoting. I will put Hogan out there promoting the company, getting into the more public awareness. So really, while it'll be a tragedy to see another company go, would it be missed? I hope that TNA can continue, but if it doesn't, like I said, I got a nice spot waiting for the DVD. I know Vince will be waiting to produce it, so.
Vince will definitely get his opportunity when he sees fit, knowing him with all the dollars. Well, thank you, Joseph. It was a pleasure talking and get to meet you. I think I'm going to kick it off to Lance. I think he has a few questions. Lance, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Joseph. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good, buddy.
My first question, do you think the whole Wrestle One and TNA deal will help TNA?
You know what? It'll help send. Excuse me a minute. It'll help the TNA market to send some of its talent up. Excuse me, that's my dog. He's trying to bite me. I guess he likes TNA, but he's like, once you go hating on TNA. So I think to send talent from TNA that's not being utilized to Japan, I think that'll work for them, for the talent, but would it boost the company? Again, I don't really see it unless they do a nice little exchange of talent, equal exchange of talent, because you got to understand Wrestle One is like another independent promotion because I believe that's what it is. It's an independent promotion in Japan. So, you're going to have that talent come over TNA, which will bring some international names or international talent. But again, it's not going to do anything for TNA if they don't promote it. So again, you're looking at a situation where it's good, but they won't get it done unless it's promoted right. And since that one little major headline, yes, TNA will now team up with Wrestle One. And
Yeah.
What are we going to expect to see out of this exchange? Are we going to see TNA talent go over there? Are we going to see their talent come here? That's the thing that never got answered. It's kind of like the old New Japan versus WCW, if you remember that far back.
Yeah.
It was a good concept, and you got to meet you got to meet Muda, you got Mr. Saito, you got to meet Jushin Thunder Liger. So, is it going to have that same impact as back then? It will if TNA promotes it. And again, from that little mention, have they even brung it up again? I haven't watched TNA for some time because since that Tito Ortiz thing came out and the other concepts that they've been doing, I just toned out TNA because of, again, it's their decisions. The company, the talent is great, but again, it's just that creative staff, that office staff that can't do anything to push it to the next level.
Okay. My last question is, do you think we'll ever see WWE get a little more adult friendly? Not saying a second Attitude Era. Don't think I'm saying that. I'm saying more along the lines of the Golden Era.
I can see WWE looking to backtrack to go back to the Golden Era. They're going to go back. I can assure you that they're probably going to hit that point where gimmicks are going to be introduced. You're going to probably see after a while, the fans are going to probably get, oh, okay, we've seen John Cena for the 1 billionth time. You're probably going to start seeing a few other things happen. A couple other gimmicks. Fandango was a gimmick. So they're trying to do a hit and miss. So I can actually see them trying to go backwards. That's an adult, to go into an adult theme or attitude era. That'll never happen because they're trying to promote more towards younger fans. So they're stuck in the PG type way. And with all their public appearances for Make-A-Wish Foundation and other most notable charities that they do, they're not going to be that group that you saw back in the 90s. They're going to backtrack a little bit. So you might see maybe a bit more characters emerge sooner or later. And again, wrestling is missing that. People tune in to watch professional wrestling to see the athleticism, to see people battle it out. They want to see people larger than life. They want to see guys and girls out there that look at wrestling and says they watch it because maybe they can't do it, or they get inspired by it. So you see, if anytime you see a larger than life character, that's inspiration. I went to a convention once, and there were people really going crazy over Bret Hart, and they were inspired by Bret Hart, not because the excellence of execution and all that stuff. No, they were inspired by his positive attitude, quote unquote positive attitude, and as well as Hulk Hogan. Do the right things, be good to yourself, good to your friends, and whatever. It's there. You're gonna see. That's what a lot of people turn to wrestling for. That's why wrestling has, no matter how bad it is, wrestling fans all over will go see it because they want to see the costumes, they want to see the guys going at it, they want to see the girls go at it, and they want to see larger than life characters. And sooner or later, you are going to start seeing that. You're going to start seeing them tone back from a little bit of the seriousness to a little bit of this funny stuff, which is why you saw Daniel Bryan and Kane be a little bit more comical.
Yeah. Now, another aspect I want to talk about, which again, I know we've been, like I said, we have been bashing TNA, and this is something Andy has always talked about a conspiracy theory, and I'm Andy is really insistent that he thinks that somebody is sending, or at least Vince, is sending over people to, take TNA down. Now, you and I talked on the phone, and you kind of have a similar, concept, but a different angle towards that. Why don't you kind of, talk, tell us, everybody what you and I talked about.
Okay. Well, now I know I'm never going to work for TNA. So this is a Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory. My theory is, and it actually has some fact to it. If you want to go back to the time of WCW, during the final days of WCW, Eric Bischoff was willing to buy WCW, put a letter of intent in, and in fact is documented in the Rise and Fall of WCW DVD, produced by the WWE. If you look at it, these guys are there, Bischoff was ready to buy WCW, and it would have been his vision. He would have taken it over, he would have brought Hogan back, they probably would have done a big thing with it. Okay. So, and then, we all know the story. Vince bought it and did, crap it up, destroyed it. But here's where, by looking at that fact and looking at Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan in the same promotion, now in another promotion together, they actually came in together, and things hasn't worked out well for TNA. They had some media boost. They had some things, but it wasn't a ticker tape parade like WCW did. It wasn't anything larger. It was just Hogan appearing on TV. And the conspiracy theory I have, and again, is proven in with a track record from Eric Bischoff and Hogan. And again, I'm not bashing them both. It's pure business. But isn't it funny how the two guys who were in WCW during the final days and they wanted to take over the company, wanted to buy it out, didn't get the chance. But here they are in TNA. Things are starting to slip again, like WCW, and Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan are there. You know, my theory is, you know, Vince, I will say Vince does not care what happens to TNA because he has other things. He's got merchandise, he's got movies, he got his Totally Diva series. You know, he has every other thing going for him. He's not going to care for a glorified indie promotion. What's going to happen is, in my opinion, that the TNA is going to suffer so much that Dixie Carter, Panda Energy, most likely Panda Energy is going to say, we can't deal with the sinking ship anymore. We're losing millions of dollars on a company that we're making maybe a fraction of it back. And sooner or later, Mr. and Mrs. Carter's wallet is going to start getting a little empty. They're going to try to unload this company. And what's going to happen is Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan are going to be the front runners and say, we'll buy it. You know, here's $20 for your company. We'll take the name, logos, everything. We'll keep your time slot and all this. You know, not for $20, but they'll make them a good offer, and the company will be switched over. If they tried it before with WCW and you saw how WCW went, my theory is something similar to that is happening in TNA. And again, you know, I would love to work for TNA, maybe help them out, change them around. I have my own company I'm doing. But, you know, the way things are happening now, you cannot ignore the way it's kind of a parallel thing going on here. You can run both companies side by side, WCW and TNA, and see the exact same path that's going down. So I actually believe something like that is happening where sooner or later, Panda Energy is going to pull away and somebody else and his brother friend are going to come in and take the company and change it. Would it be for the better or for worse? Nobody knows. But only TNA knows, you know, what's going to happen. But my little conspiracy theory is we're seeing a remake of WCW.
Well, you know, and the sad thing is a lot of people have always said that, you know, TNA was the remake of the, WCW, and, you know, unfortunately, it's starting to look that way. I'm going to ask you another question. What do you see if, you know, right now with the way TNA, if it was your choice, if you had the decision, what would you do to try to turn this ship around?
Okay, first of all, I know a lot of people are going to say, fire Hogan, fire Bischoff. You know, Eric Bischoff, and I know I put him down just a few seconds ago, and I'm not, you know, contradicting or anything. Eric Bischoff's main, you know, experience is producing and marketing. So you keep him there on a leash. You're doing marketing and producing, produce our shows. That's all you're doing. You're not an on-air personality. You're not this guy who's backstage. No, you're doing our TV tapings. You're doing our producing. Stick to that. Hogan, I would look at Hulk Hogan and I would say, you recognize this no matter what, no matter how bad, you know, we badmouth Hulk Hogan, whatever have you, he is still an icon. He is professional wrestling. He's made wrestling what it is. You know, thanks to Vince. But the thing is, you give Hulk Hogan, if you're gonna put him on a salary, okay, you're gonna eat, you're gonna breathe, you're gonna speak, you're gonna do everything TNA. Even if you gotta wear a red and yellow TNA shirt, drive around in a TNA car, you're gonna promote TNA like it's the next coming of the WWF. You're gonna go in there and you're gonna push it. Make Hulk Hogan your billboard, and then look at everybody else on that roster. Look at everybody from the top to the bottom. Again, take Sting, who's another guy who's, known, you put him out in the field too. That's another guy that's your figurehead of the company. You're going out, putting them through public appearances. Get the word out. Then look at your talent, see who the fans like, see who the fans hate. Build that talent roster. Get rid of the crap that's not doing anything for your company and build up your fresh young talent. Do the one thing Vince is not doing. Promote professional wrestling. Vince is promoting sports entertainment, movies, reality series, and everything else. Promote professional wrestling. Do it that way. They actually, TNA was doing that, where they say, they're doing wrestling or something. But take away from everything. Get away from everything that Vince is doing and do the complete opposite. Go in there, put your talent roster on alert, and just say, Hogan, you're doing this. Here's Bischoff, you're doing this. Brooke, go home. Brooke, no, Brooke, you're going out the door, Brooke. Go. Okay, bye. Thank you. And you get rid of that nonsense, and you get rid of the people who are just eating your budget. You turn it around. Now you bring back competition. Bring independent teams, independent women talent. Because there's guys, say what you will about the divas and the knockouts, but if a legit, and I think I had a post on this on Facebook, bring in some of these guys and girls who are so overlooked. Who are so overlooked here. And I could say a couple of names, but I don't want to throw out stuff out there. But you have guys like the Atomic Dog, the Fallen Angels. You have Style and Finesse. You have so many talent that it's incredible that are out there. Bring them in. Give the audience something different. And if they like them, you keep them. Start building. Go into storylines. Build up the good guy versus bad guy. I guarantee you, if you start doing that and putting your talent out in public to do public appearances, do Say No to Drugs, work with different companies, work with different community programs, TNA will skyrocket, and stay at the impact zone. Only go out to do, if you're going to hit a location, do it for pay-per-view. Hit a different location for pay-per-view and stick to 4 pay-per-views a year. Don't be like Vince that has a pay-per-view every month. Build up the pay-per-view. Build up your guys to the pay-per-view and make it bigger than what it is. And that's what will change TNA completely. That will salvage the Titanic that they're on now.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. They need to definitely do something. I'm going to kick it over to James. James, unfortunately, we kind of missed James. James, over to you.
Will and Rick stole 2 of my questions I was going to ask.
Well, I'm sorry, James. I forgot. Well, we had to get James was on the bus, and he's off the bus.
I'm not
now.
on the bus. I'm on at home. All right.
That's a personal joke.
Yeah, but anyway. So what's up, Joseph?
How you doing, James?
Well, as I said, I had a couple questions, but I haven't got one question really. Looking at the TNA, the stars that TNA released just recently, do you see any of them being in your company?
Quite possibly. I definitely would love to bring in Tara. I think she will be phenomenal for our ladies division, and it'll probably be pretty much the franchise. No offense, Shane, the franchise for the ladies division. And a couple of other talent. I don't actually know too much of the talent they released. I've seen a couple of names that were released, but absolutely, I would love to entertain some of their offers, to sit down and bring them in. Again, from what I want to bring to the public is a change. It's not the same, rotate talent, get them to see certain individuals that they don't see, bring the product to wrestling fans, not to smart marks. I want to bring it to the wrestling fans. And that's what I'm pushing with my company. I'm not looking for the marks, smart marks. I'm looking for those fans that love wrestling. And so far, we have such a great niche of fans that come up to me, they come up to my staff, after pelting us with rocks, but they love our product. They like the way what we're doing. And a lot of the older fans, I had a 45-year-old male fan. He came up to me and says, he says, what you're doing, it reminds me so much of what I seen on TV back in the day. And I'm thinking, wow, back when Frank Gosh was wrestling, or Luthez, and he was like, it's the entertainment value. That's what basically it is. So yeah, some of those TNA talent, I would love to bring them in. Give the audience a chance to see these guys can be bigger stars. They're already names, but let's make them bigger. Let's put them in the level with our other guys.
Okay. Like I want to know, like for your company, I'm seeing on your roster that Jason Knight is your champion, and you have a women's champion, Audrey Marie. But what happened to the tag team champions? Why is it vacant?
Basically, what happened was we had a match that the two teams battled. It was the Fallen Angels versus Style and Finesse. Two sensational teams. They battled each other, and we just kept getting either double countouts, disqualifications. We never got a clear-cut winner. So we decided to vacate the titles, put the titles up now in a special 2 out of 3 falls where there has to be a winner. And that's why our August 21st show in Patterson, New Jersey, I'll say the address in a little bit, but that's part of one of our main events, where it's the Fallen Angels take on Style and Finesse for these titles, and the titles would then be filled, and it will be a completely definite tag team champions there.
One last question. What do you think of, WWE doing this like reality show of Total Divas? Have you ever seen it? And what do you think of it?
Oh God!
Sorry, Joseph. I didn't know James was gonna do that, but
No. My stomach hurts now.
I mean, you don't have to ask the.
No. Basically, here's the thing. With the total, I understand why Vince did it. He that's his version of Desperate Housewives. He took these young ladies who are very attractive, put them in the ring, had them get media attention. Some of them can't work too well, but he got their names out enough that he can now put them on a TV show by themselves. And he created his own Desperate Housewives. If you want to call it Desperately Seeking Divas, you can. But that's what happened. And again, it goes back to what I said before. Vince took these great talents, or took these individuals, made them into big, talented people that people recognize. Now they can branch off and do a show, and people are focused on that show more than their wrestling matches. So if you had to make a choice between Totally Divas or a Diva match, I'm going to watch Totally Divas, because that's where the market is. That's TNA without being TNA. People are going to see that. I can expect Vince to open up his own Playboy Mansion. Or play Diva Mansion somewhere. But I haven't seen any of their shows. I'm not a big fan of reality. Is God calling?
God.
Fred Eternal.
It's Dixie.
I'll be there, God. I'm sorry if I'm bashing TNA.
It's Dixie Solicitors.
Oh, it is Dixie. Holy crap.
Oh, if it is, and Andy's gonna get. Oh, hold on. Andy's about to, juice his pants.
And she'll probably say, "How dare you talk bad about TNA?"
as Ron Simmons would say, damn.
It's like, well, you're leaving the product. Why? It's like this. It's like a joke. If you give somebody that little bit, that you're gonna walk right in and do that whole gimmick. But I haven't seen the Totally Divas. But I understand the concept behind it. I'm not a fan of reality shows. I say if you want to see reality shows, open your window and look outside and see people fighting and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, especially in my neighborhood. That's really easy. All right. Well, listen. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I've stumped them all.
Wow, I guess so.
No, actually, hold on. Andy has one and I have one.
Okay, Andy, over to you.
No, we'll go first, and then I'll take my turn.
Okay.
Let me prepare the shinning. Let me prepare the shinning, and I say that I can't say the shining because that's trademark. So let's do the Bart Simpson shinning. So go ahead.
The Bart Simpson. That's a good one. I remember that back in the day. All right. Side note. Who would you like to take out to dinner if it was a diva or a knockout?
Let's see here. I would have to take out somebody that I know I'm going to have to go home with because my wife would not let me back in the house. I'm thinking I would have to say Miss Tessmacher.
Woo! She's pretty.
I think I'm not a fan of Caitlyn because she's got that reverse hair color. It looks like she's wearing a wig. So, it's like blonde at the top and black in the bottom or whatever, black in the bottom or whatever.
Yeah.
Attractive lady, I just don't like the hair. But if I had my choice and I know I wasn't going to be able to come back home, it would be Miss Tessmacher.
And one final question from me. If you could choose one, we'll go back to TNA for one final time. If you could choose one TNA star and put them in the WWE, who would it be?
Wow. You know what? I couldn't limit it to one, but I'm just going to throw one out there. Bobby Roode.
Ooh.
Bobby Roode has such untapped potential. He's kind of like Rick Rude mixed with Arn Anderson. And I think a person like that in the group, like the Shield or somebody else, another faction, will even in a remake of the Four Horsemen, something like that with Bobby Roode in there. I think he'll go places. They'll turn him into a superstar. Notice, I didn't say, AJ, Samoa Joe. I have, again, I know I'm bashing TNA a lot, but it's nothing against the talent. It's the office decisions, and I'm working for TNA off my list because I know I will never go there.
Especially after this interview.
After this, yes. It'll definitely be Bobby Roode.
Yeah, I'm glad because a lot of people tend to say AJ Styles. Now, yeah, AJ Styles is probably one of their better talents, but the only problem is I don't think he could hack it with the big boys. I don't think he's WWE material. I really don't.
Well, I'm going to chime in there. It's not really that he's not WWE material. There is already an AJ Styles in the WWE. It's Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
You don't want another guy in there that's just like your current guy now. Bobby Roode would fit perfectly in a WWE environment. Even if you look at the entire roster, that is the only person you can pick to be in the WWE.
And you know what? He reminds me very much, of Triple H, and he could definitely replace him, in many ways.
No, I have to disagree with you.
Really?
He reminds me more of an Arn Anderson. Look at the tendency. Look at his face. Look at the way he does the spine buster. Look at the way he presents himself. Bobby Roode is another Arn Anderson. And Arn is put it like this. I grew up watching the Horsemen during their heyday. And I don't mean the Steve Michael or Benoit or everybody else. I mean the original four. And Bobby Roode is like Arn Anderson. The backbone, of a group. If you put Bobby Roode in the Shield as a fourth member, or if Ric Flair came out and decided he was going to form a new version of the Horsemen, there you got your Arn Anderson. And I think if Arn Anderson gave him the rub, oh, forget it. I hate to steal this from TNA, from WCW. If Arn Anderson gave Bobby Roode the spot in the Horsemen, Bobby Roode will become a next mega star.
I think if Ric Flair brought out another fraction, they would have to be called the Donkeys. I don't know about horsemen, but more like donkeys.
Especially what he's been going through.
Yeah.
The full assman.
And again, you know what? That's another thing that's missing today. The antagonist. You're missing that one dominant group. You had it with DX. You had it with the Nation. You had it with oh wow, I can't remember the NWO. Yet there's, in today's wrestling, there is no mega heel. There is no mega stable. A group that you go in there and you can look and you just want it. The Shield is a good group, but again, they're like the 3MB. They're just there just to fill up a spot. So again, I think that's what's missing in wrestling. It's just that antagonist and that type of faction. Again, coming back to Bobby Roode, he could be good as an antagonist. He's got that mentality for it.
The biggest problem is WWE seem to be bringing in like Shield and so on and so forth, but I agree with what you're saying. They're just not the right sort of people to come in. They bring them in, they don't really know what to do with them, and then they just drop them like a ton of bricks, like they did Nexus. They need somebody that the crowd want to kill them the moment they walk out. The moment they walk down the entrance ramp, they want to kill them. But it hasn't happened for... I can't remember the last person who had major heat every time he came down to the arena. And it's what's lacking really badly.
Well, and that's another reason that WWE television is boring. If you look on WWE TV, you're looking at, again, the same thing every single Monday and Friday night. How many times is John Cena going to come out? How many times is this person going to come out? There is no mega heel. There's no guy or group that's going to really develop, that's going to really make you want to buy a ticket just to see him get beat. None of the talent. And again, I think another thing that's missing in wrestling, and I cut myself off on that, but the one thing that's missing in professional wrestling today, and the talent is there, the skills are there, is none of these guys know how to cut a promo, a captivating promo. Jake the Snake Roberts during his heyday, captivating promo. Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, even the Macho Man with his, oh yeah, baby. Those are things that captured you, that made you want to come see these people. None of these guys can talk, and girls can talk.
Yeah, I think if you don't have good mic skills to go with it, forget it. You're just going to stink up the crowd.
Yeah, you can go to the ring, you can have $1 million body, but if you got, like Bobby Heenan used to say, a 10-cent brain, and you can't do anything in there, why am I paying to see you?
Yeah, I think the only reason why Brock Lesnar, I hate to say it, is successful is because of Paul Heyman. If you know what I mean, he may be good in the. I won't even say he's even that good in the ring. I think the only reason why he's over is because he's just this big powerhouse that can just pound the shit out of people, and he has Paul Heyman, who probably is got one of the best mic skills in the business, and he's the one who pretty much covers his ass.
Oh, absolutely. the Paul actually goes in there and makes you hate him more than his protege. It was like Bobby Heenan. Okay, he had Andre the Giant. You hated Bundy. You hated. No, you hated Heenan more. And that's what you see with Heyman. You hate him more because, the guy is so arrogant. You want to just kill him. You don't care who he's with. You want to get to him first. That's what makes it appealing. It's that personality. And again, you have Brock Lesnar with a great physique, yet, okay, Brock's talking to the camera. Put the rocket fuel in the ship and take off. You're not going to have that. He's just going to stay there and stare at you. So you got to have someone like Paul Heyman managing a guy like that. And it's too bad they have like the training facility, they have NXT, and they never, again, I don't watch that. I don't watch actually NXT or anything like that. I keep up with the product once in a while just to see what they're doing. But I don't see these folks get trained to do promos. I don't see them being trained to do, be larger than life. And you can tell directly how Vince doesn't know where to take a person, or Triple H, because look at CM Punk. They had him as a incredible good guy, then they switched him to a bad guy, then now they're switching him back as a good guy. While Randy Orton's dying to be a bad guy, they keeping him as a good guy. It doesn't make sense. Put them where they are the best at.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you got a couple of other questions. First off, one of our traditional questions that we ask here at HWR is, do you have a funny road story? You've pretty much been through it.
A road story.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see here. Okay. Here's one that involved my wife.
I heard this one before.
Well,
No.
This don't sound well.
I hope she's not listening.
No, she's in the other room. So
Good question, James.
I gave her a credit card and a laptop, so that should keep her busy. Okay. During my manager career, I brought her with me. I used to bring her to a couple of my shows. A couple of the shows I was hired on. I was managing Jason and a tag team, and I came back and forth. And already it's too bad that the sport is exposed so much. Everybody knows what's going on. But, I brought my wife. She kind of knew everything, what's going to happen, the winners and losers. So I said, okay, well, the guy's going to start changing. Go sit with the fans. So I left her out. She went to go sit with the fans. And here we are. I'm getting in gimmick. I'm getting ready to come out. I'd done my stuff, come back and forth with my team. One of the guys comes and grabs me, and he pulls me to the side. Do not bring your wife ever again to our shows. Why? What's going on? He pushes my head out the door to look. Here's my wife actually taking bets like she's Pete Rose at a baseball game. Betting the entire fans, all the fans on one side, who's going to win and lose. And money is actually being passed over, and she's coming with this wad of money.
Dang.
And they said, do not bring her back. She's making more than the promotion. So, at the end of the show, I got paid, $75. I see my wife counting a lot of money. She's in the 200s, 300s. I said, holy cow, you got paid more than me. Can I have some of that? No, I earned this. And here she is walking away with all this money, and I got a $50 payday, and she's got like a $300 gambling spree. So,
Hey.
so that's one of the most amusing road trips I had. Another time was, it's kind of a funny little thing. We had to take a wrestling ring, up to a second floor warehouse, okay, where the guy wanted to do a wrestling show. So he hired me and a couple of guys. Here we are, me and Jason Knight are together tying up these cables to pull up this girder out up, the guy's pulling the rope, he's pulling the cable, and he's pulling these girders up the side of the building because they couldn't fit in the stairs or the elevators. One lets go, and the girder comes crashing down. Everybody's scattering. People are thinking the building is falling because girders are falling down. So that was another incredible funny story that me and Jason had, because we're running and actually people thought the sky was falling and the building is falling apart. We cleared that building out and there was no show that day. Fans were afraid to go in a building that was falling apart because they saw these girders coming down. Because they were tied together, so they were sliding out. So, yeah, Jason will probably smirk at that one and laugh. He'll think, I remember that. So, yeah, that's pretty much the most interesting road stories I had. I will say this, during my career, I got to meet a lot of the young talent that I knew they were going to get somewhere. Chris Candido, I saw him when he was young, when he was starting out. Sabu. I actually met, Sean Waltman, X-Pac, 1 through 3 kid, when we looked so much alike. We both had the same look, same face. He was taller than me. They were like, wow. They thought, we were related. I'm like, no, I'm the evil one. He's the goody guy. So, but I had a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of young talent who, made it in the business, and I'm happy to contribute in any way possible for my part.
All right, and of course, we also like to know, what have you got coming up as far as any of your latest, your shows and stuff?
Well, currently we are preparing for our Summer Bash event, which is Saturday, August 31st, 6 o'clock bell time. It's on our CWA Arena in Patterson, New Jersey, and the address is 21 Jasper Street, in the corner of Totowa Avenue. So any of you who are in Patterson, you know where it is. We're gearing for that big event. And also we're getting ready right after this event. We're going to start pretty much gearing up for our next event in October, which is going to be called Halloween Horror. And we're going to bring back the War Games. Well, we can't say War Games because Vince owns that. So we're doing a lot of different things the fans going to like. And the fans going to be amazed of what we can do. Again, we're a small company. We're trying to make it big. We're trying to, give the fans what they want. So we hope a lot of fans come out to see our Summer Bash event.
So it sounds like it's going to be a real good time. It sounds like it's going to be a bash, no pun intended. And also, I believe that you do have a magazine coming out, your Classic Pro Wrestling coming out. It's coming out in September.
Yes, it is. That was another concept that we decided to come out with. We, again, mimic a little bit the WWE. We decided to come out with our own digital magazine. It's the CWA magazine, and on the cover, it has the Fallen Angels on it. It's because one of their members, Cancer, wore his magic helmet and stood outside our office and tormented the editors into forcing them to put the Fallen Angels on the cover. So it's a digital download. It's a digital magazine. So it has all these stories, colorful pictures, the rating systems, what's coming, and other events that we're doing. We also planning to do a meet and greet soon. So we're constantly getting there. And actually, you'll see your program is going to be advertised on our magazines now. So that definitely you guys will have a spot in there.
And we are very honored for you to have us in that magazine. We want to thank you for that. And we also want to thank you for coming on this show. Where can fans find this magazine?
Well, they can find it directly on our website at www.classicwrestling.com. ClassicWrestlingAssociation.com. It's all one word, ClassicWrestlingAssociation.com. It's due out in September, but it will have all the results from Summer Bash, a lot of new stories, again, colorful pictures and everything. So I hope the fans, buy it from us, help support the CWA, and keep the dream of bringing, family-friendly classic professional wrestling back to the indie circuit. And we hope, I hope to be on here more. I hope to interact with your staff. And if any of you are in Patterson, look me up for any of the events. We'll give you a front row seat.
Absolutely, guys, and that's something you should definitely look into. And again, Joseph, I want to thank you. Also, I want to congratulate you for making it on the PWI ratings. That was also a big achievement.
Oh, that was a surprise for us there. We got on the ratings, and that was kind of a big morale booster, because considering that's the only wrestling magazine out now, we were very proud of that, and I thank PWI for letting us be on there. And we hope to be on there more often. And again, if anybody wants to find out about tickets, the magazine, we also have CWA t-shirts, CWA cups. You can visit again our website at ClassicWrestlingAssociation.com. Buy our merchandise. Buy the shirt.
Absolutely. Hey, head on over there. Shirt. Wear the CWA shirt and help boost these guys. And listen, before you go, we'd like to know if you can help us out and give us a little bit of a promo by saying, this is Joseph Knight, and you're listening to Hardcore Wrestling Radio.
Well, this is Joseph Knight, owner of the CWA. You're listening to me on the Hardcore Wrestling Radio.
All right. And thank you, Joseph Knight. Again, we want to thank you for coming on. And anytime you want to come on, by all means, you are more than welcome to come on.
Well, I'm going to need a place to hide once my wife hears about Miss Tessmacher.
And, of course, I want to thank all the other guys come on. Andy, where can we find you at? Andy,
wake up, we'll throw dirt on you.
I'm talking away and my mic's on mute. www.stokehaunted.com. Yes, I'm a paranormal investigator who chases nothing.
Oh, until the other week, I believe he got punched in the ribs.
And in the mouth. I've got a swollen cheek to prove it.
And a messed up tooth, too. Ain't that right?
I still think he was talking dirty to a lady, and she punched him in the mouth, but, that's just me.
I was talking bad about WWE, and it was Stephanie, I think. just something I want to say to Joseph before he goes. He's more than welcome to come on. I'm sure I can say this from every. You're more than welcome to come on the show anytime he likes. That's not a issue. And we've got, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've got Axel Rotten next week. If you'd like to come on and interact with Axel, you're more than welcome to.
More than rotten.
You're more than welcome to come in. You're more than welcome to come in and have a natter. It'll be around about the same time. And. This will be our third interview with Axel, I think, guys. He's really down to earth, really, really nice guy.
We will have the hardcore wrestling legend, Axel Rotten. He will be here next week, so be sure you catch us. And let's get thanks to the rest of the crew. Will, where can we find you over at Instagib?
I'm at www.instagib.tv/BayerMVP. I do video game runs, game shows, and a little bit of football wrestling talk when I can.
And I believe you also have your partner, James. James, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagib.tv/FatBoy504 right now. I'm on hiatus. I don't know when I'm coming back, because I have to get another charger for my other laptop when I'm back. I'll give you the heads up.
And then, of course, last but certainly not least, we have the incomparable Lance Moss. Lance, where can we find you?
YouTube.com/LanceMossTV. I do album reviews, NASCAR reviews, and wrestling reviews, and whatever else pops into my head.
And, of course, I am the Shining Star Rick Star, and you can always find me over at my Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. And over on our pages,
HairyHamster.com.
Hey, you know what? Come on. You're supposed to not tell anybody about that one, okay? Anytime you want to listen to the show, you're going to head over to Spreaker.com/HWR Media. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you hit the like button. And until next time, we'll see you when we see you. Thank you for listening to this edition of Hardcore Wrestling Radio. Be sure to follow us on our pages, facebook.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio and Spreaker.com/HWR Media, and also on YouTube.com/HWR Show. Until the next time, this is Rick Starr saying, see you when we see you.